So recently I've made quite a few reactions to Tim Minchin, really enjoying that discovery of his comedy and performances, and that exploration of his career is going to continue. I have more reactions coming soon for Tim Minchin. But what I thought would be interesting also, he's from Australia, or actually when I was researching him, found out he was actually born in the UK, but obviously he has Australian parents and was raised in Perth. Who I have some extended family in Perth as well, my in-laws. So I thought I would check out some Australian content in sort of respect of him, and just to learn a bit more. I know I'm going to be doing some reactions to different Australian comedians as well. And one of the videos I wanted to check out was this one. So this is called 50 Things That Are Only Possible in Australia. So that'd be quite an interesting video. And yeah, honestly, if you ask me what's my favourite city in the world that I visited, my favourite cities are Tokyo and Amsterdam for different reasons, but I just love both of them. But just outside of them is Melbourne. I went to Melbourne a couple of years ago, I loved it, and out of those three places, Melbourne's definitely the place I could see myself living and bringing up my children or my child and future children. And raising a family. It's just such a great place. I love my time there. I spent about 2 weeks there, just loved it, and yeah, obviously I want to go back there as soon as I can. But yeah, in the meantime, going to be doing some Australian reactions. So today we're going to be checking out this one, 50 things that are only possible in Australia. Don't know what this could be, but yeah, excited to see.
Okay, it's pop quiz time. Which country has the longest fence in the world? How about the second largest Greek population?
Okay.
3 times more sheep than people?
Yeah, that makes sense. I always hear how there's just so many sheep. I think it might even be the same in the UK and Wales and things like that. The Greek population, I think I've heard. I remember the guy that used to host Australian MasterChef, the Greek guy. I can't remember his name, the bald guy, but I knew there was a big Greek population in Australia.
One word will give it away. Kangaroos! Yeah, I'm talking about the land down under. So, what do you know about Australia?
Got the longest fence in the world? Where is that, man? I don't even know how that would look.
So, let's start with the name. Australia comes from the Latin word australis, which means southern. Way back in the 2nd century, there were legends of a mysterious Terra Australis Incognita, or unknown southern land. Well, now it's very known, so let's get to know more about it. Despite the stereotypes of hot, sunny weather year-round, the Australian Alps, which are the highest mountain range in the country, get more snow than the Swiss Alps do.
Okay, that straight away I definitely never knew that. I never knew there was snowy places in Australia, I guess during the winter, but still didn't think that was possible. Never mind more snow than the Swiss Alps. That's pretty crazy, actually.
Better grab your skis.
Tell me if you've ever been there, if you're from Australia. Tell me what it's like. I don't even know how that would look.
The world's longest national highway is in Australia. It stretches for over 9,000 miles. For comparison, the Earth's diameter is about 7,900 miles. It's actually a network of highways that connects all capitals of the mainland states.
Oh, cool.
Now, I'm sure you've heard of the Great Wall of China. But what about the Great Fence of Australia?
This is what I want to see, man.
Okay, that's not what it's called, but still, the Dingo Fence in Southeast Australia stretches for nearly 3,500 miles. For comparison, it would easily cover the entire span of the U.S., from Los Angeles to Houghton, Maine.
How big is that? Let me just see this. The Dingo Fence, is that what it just said there? Let's check this out. The Dingo Fence. I don't know how big this would be. Let's see. Okay, it's like a wire type fence. Interesting. If Donald Trump seen that, man, maybe that's why Donald Trump got so excited. Maybe he seen this and he was like, "Whoa, man, I can bring this back and cut out some immigrants with a bigger, more reinforced wall."
Now,
that's
it
cool,
might
man.
not be so surprising to know that Australia is huge. It's about the same size as the continental U.S., about 2,500 miles wide. The distance from the west to east coast is further than Barcelona to Moscow. In all, Australia is the world's 6th largest country and the only one that's also a whole continent. But with all that territory, over 80% of Australians live within 60 miles of the coast.
That's what I was going to say. Is the thing I know about Australia is it has like a big landmass, but the population isn't really relative to that size of land. So this is like the perfect illustration of that. You see, like people just mostly living in this area. Yeah, I know that the big cities, I think Melbourne's down here. There's like Sydney, Brisbane is up around somewhere about here, I think. But yeah, quite crazy. There's so much like land here that is kind of no one living there, or what? Is there a reason why no one lives there? Is it the weather conditions? Is it just too far from water and things like that? Do you think there's possibilities that they could like build further inland?
This makes the country one of the most coastal dwelling populations in the world.
And I went on a drive
and that
along.
means a whole lot of beaches.
What's that? The drive? Is it Great Ocean? No, what's it? Ocean Drive, Melbourne. What's it called? It was like, yeah, the Great Ocean Road. That was like one of the most beautiful drives. I went near here, got all the photographs. It was super windy, but yeah, like it's such a beautiful drive up the coast there, man. So picturesque.
In fact, they have so many
really
that if
stunning.
you decided to visit a new beach every day, they have populations in the world. And that means a whole lot of beaches. In fact, they have so many that if you decided to visit a new beach every day, it would take you almost 30 years to see them all.
Wait, so how many is that? That's like hundreds, thousands of beaches. Is that, my maths might not be so good, but that is a crazy amount of beaches.
The biggest property in Australia is about 40,000 square miles in area. South Korea could fit into it with room to spare. The country's termites are busy building huge properties as well. Their mounds are the tallest in area. The biggest property in Australia is about 40,000 square miles in area.
The biggest property? What does that mean by property? Like just a land that's owned by one person or something like that? South Korea could fit in one property? Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Property to me is like a home or like a person's land. Is that?
South Korea could fit into it with room to spare. The country's termites are
I need
busy
more
building
explanation
huge
for that one.
properties as
Please
well.
tell me more about that.
Their mounds are the tallest animal-made structures on this planet.
Well, we've got some
Before humans arrived,
Giga
the
Chad
continent
ants
was
in
home to
Australia.
megafauna. If you lived there about 46,000 years ago, you'd be dead today. But you would have seen 10-foot-tall kangaroos, 23-foot-long goanna lizards, and ducks the size of an adult horse.
What? What the fuck? Ducks the size of an adult horse? Is that possible? Is that even true? A duck that's the size of a horse? Can you imagine how loud that would be quacking? How big its flipper feet would be, man?
Quack, quack.
Jeez.
The largest
frightening.
living structure on the planet is the Australian Great Barrier Reef.
Man, yeah.
By the way, it has its own mailbox, and there's a rumor that the fish there use eel mail. Yeah. Neither kangaroos nor emus can walk backward.
Oh, man,
that's a
it's the
fact.
dad jokes,
And that's
huh?
why they're painted.
What?
Neither kangaroos nor emus can walk backward. That's a fact. And that's why they're painted on the Australian coat of arms.
Okay, man, I've never seen the Australian coat of arms. That's cool, but I get the kangaroos. The emu is a very common animal in Australia, but I can understand why kangaroos can't walk backwards with their big feet and tail. But why do emus not walk backwards? And someone, yeah, if you want to explain the coat of arms, I'm really interested in seeing coat of arms. What these things mean. I guess that's probably like the England flag and the England lion. Tell me what the rest of them are representing.
Keep moving forward. The platypus, an egg-laying mammal that lives only in Australia, is one of the rare venomous mammals on this planet. Luckily, while the venom has an excruciatingly painful effect on people, it's not lethal. The takeaway? Don't fuss with a platypus. By the way, when the first platypus was brought to England, people there were sure that it was a joke. The English believed that Australians had sewn a duck's bill onto a rat's body to play a trick on them. Yeah, right up until he bit them. Not laughing now, are ya?
Man, that says a lot about English people, man. They didn't believe this animal existed. They just thought they were being played a trick on, man. English.
Swimming in the surf during the day had been illegal in Australia up until 1902. But after one guy calmly entered the waves of Manly Beach one afternoon that year, surf bathing became increasingly popular. The largest Greek population outside of Greece itself is in Australia. Actually, to be more precise, in Melbourne. More than 160,000 people who live there say they come from Greek descent.
Whoa, that's quite a lot.
Melbourne
actually.
was the richest city in the world in 1880. These days, Tokyo, Japan holds this title.
Oh, nice.
And
two of my favourite cities. But yeah, that's one thing I liked about Melbourne when I visited. It was like very multicultural, man. You like go there, and that's one thing I like about Amsterdam as well. Is when you go there, like you just see people of every race, every background, every age, every type of person. It's so varied. It's like just very interesting. I live in Malaysia, so you go out and it's 98% Malaysian people. You go to even Tokyo, one of my other favourite places, it's just 98% Japanese people. But Melbourne and Amsterdam were just so like a melting pot, and it's like people always in the UK always complain about multiculturalism, like causing problems and things like that. But for me, Melbourne seemed like a great place where everybody was integrated. Everybody was just like, I'm Australian, I'm living the Australian life, and I loved that, man. It's like people just enjoying the place that they live in. Other countries like US and UK seem to have problems with integration for people coming from other countries and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's one thing I liked about
until
Melbourne.
2018, Melbourne had been rated as the most livable city in the world for 7 years in a row.
Whoa, yeah,
But then
that makes sense.
it was
I can
bumped
see
down
that.
to second place after Vienna, Austria. Come on, Melbourne, get back in the game.
Come on, Melbourne.
One of Melbourne's founders was John Batman. Yep, that was his real name. And get this, the city was
Nice
temporarily called Batmania.
What,
Too
man?
bad they decided
This-
to change it to Robinville? Nah.
Nah.
In 2018,
Come on, man. Petition to get Melbourne renamed Batmania, man. That's fucking sick, man.
too
What a
bad they
great name.
decided to change it to Robinville? Nah.
Batmania.
In 2018, Australia ranked third after Norway and Switzerland on the Human Development Index. This index is based on education, life expectancy, and citizens' income. Basically, they got a good thing going
Yeah,
down
man,
under
definitely.
there.
That's why I could see
In
myself raising a family
2005,
there.
security
definitely.
guards at the Parliament House
Especially
in
compared to
Canberra
here in
were
Malaysia.
prohibited from calling people mate. But the ban only lasted for a day, mate. G'day. If you're ever in
Hashtag
Western
free, mate.
Australia, you can visit one of their many super salty pink lakes.
Oh, beautiful.
They get the bubblegum hue from a certain type of algae and bacteria,
Okay.
and they're totally safe to swim in. Just be careful what you chew. Oh, and be sure to take a
Bloody jokes
selfie
on
while
this,
you're
man.
swimming in what looks like a giant pool of Pepto-Bismol. You can thank Australia for coming up with the word selfie
Really?
in the first place. There are about 74 million sheep to 25 million
Congratulations,
people in Australia, which makes an impressive ratio of 3 to 1. Only China and India have more than that.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
and the kangaroo thing is totally true. There are twice as many kangaroos as there are people there. That's 50 to 25 million.
That is one thing I never knew. I knew obviously kangaroo as an animal synonymous with Australia. Like everybody uses that as a sort of stereotype and thinks about that as like I mean, it is an icon of Australia, but I didn't realise there's like almost 50 million kangaroos. That's insane, man. And kangaroos are big and strong, man. If they decide to take over, there's going to be trouble.
Speaking of which, when a baby kangaroo is born, it's only half an inch long. It's also hairless and totally pink.
Damn.
Kind of looks like a gummy bear.
Oh,
What else is there in Australia? Oh, that's right, koalas. And to top that, there are 10 times more camels than koalas. Australia is the source of a lot of the Middle East's camel.
what? No fucking way, man. I did not know. I didn't even know camels were I would maybe imagine they can have them in a zoo in Australia. I didn't know there was that many camels in Australia. Especially didn't know that the camels in the Middle East come from Australia. That's blown my mind.
Now, in Western Australia, it's against the law to be in possession of more than 110 pounds of potatoes. Well, every country has its obscure, bizarre laws. The architect of the world-famous Sydney Opera House got the idea of this unique construction while munching on an orange. If you combine all the sails of the building's roof, you'll get a perfect sphere. The most ancient
Honestly, that is amazing.
The most ancient fossils in the world were found in Australia. They were no less than 3.4 billion years old, even older than my leftovers in the fridge. There are so many different species in this country that only 25% of them have been discovered so far. Burger King miraculously turns into Hungry Jack's as soon as you land in Australia.
Yeah, I had that
It's
when
the
I was in
Aussie
Melbourne.
franchise of the
Just
famous
16.
fast food chain. Australia is a unique continent that doesn't house any active volcanoes. It's also the flattest continent on our planet. But it's got plenty of mountains, and one of them is called Mount Disappointment. It's just 2,600 feet tall, and naturally,
is it so
explorers
disappointing?
William Hovell and Hamilton Hume expected to see a great view from the top. However, after climbing the mountain, they discovered that there were too many trees growing on top and blocking the view completely. Guess how the men felt?
That is disappointing.
Australia
That
has
is
tons of unique
ridiculous, man. I
flora
never
and
knew
fauna
that was
species
like,
that you won't
a
find
thing.
anywhere else in the world. Among those are a staggering 1,500 spider species. Spider species.
Yeah, that's one thing that puts me off Australia is some things you see, like some of the animals and insects and reptiles that get people share that they see in their houses and stuff. They're fucking like huge, man. Like if you're from Australia, is it common to see all these crazy animals in your house or near in your land?
Yeah.
I don't think I could.
On the
handle
bright
that,
side,
man.
and we are, while some of them are fatally poisonous, most are completely harmless. But how do I tell them apart? Oh, the poisonous ones wear signs. Got it. It's also where you'll find 21 of the world's
man,
top
snakes
25
also,
most
yeah.
venomous snakes. More than 90% of Australia is covered with some kind of vegetation. Since 1988, Australia has had a national floral emblem, and it's the golden wattle. When this plant blooms, it gets covered with the country's national colors, green and gold. Australia is a
cool, man. That's
multinational
interesting.
country with more than 200 different languages and dialects spoken there. The most popular non-English languages are Mandarin, Greek, Arabic, Vietnamese, and Cantonese. There are 19 UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Australia, including 12 natural sites, 3 cultural sites, and 4 mixed sites.
And Australia really has everything, man. It's just such a beautiful place. Has the beaches, has the countryside, has these like really special places as well, man. It really seems like a kind of modern utopia, man.
The
really.
difference between Australia
What are the bad things about Australia? Tell me in the comments. Is there any bad things? What in your opinion, is things that you don't enjoy
its
about
total
Australia?
length
I'd be
and its
interested
width
to know.
is only 200 miles. Hey, do you have an 8-hour working day? You can thank Australian stonemasons for that. In 1865, they demanded to make 8-hour shifts the standard, and it spread throughout the world from there. With 8 people per square mile, Australia has an extremely low population
yeah, that's what I
density.
mentioned at the beginning.
For
actually.
comparison, there are about 93 people per square mile in the US.
Awesome. So yeah, really enjoyed that. It was great to find out some more. Definitely never knew many of those facts, if not all of them, man. There was some things that were I recognised, but all of that was kind of new and very interesting information. Australia definitely has a lot of uniqueness, and yeah, it just seems like a great place. Like Australian people really have a reputation for being some of the friendliest and most like outgoing and fun people anywhere in the world. Being from the UK, being British, I feel like Australia is the country whose like sense of humour is most similar to the UK. They use the C word all the time, the same as people from Scotland, the UK. But it seems like really a great place. As I said, I've only been to Melbourne. I would love to visit some other parts. Perth's probably the closest to here in Malaysia. So yeah, let me know where you're from. Tell me what's good about your city in Australia. Tell me where I should visit next. And tell me what you think about me possibly living in Melbourne. Do you think it would be a good place to live and raise a family? Tell me more about Australia. Thanks.